Okay, so now we're going to jump into our panel conversation, and I'm going to introduce our panelists. First up, we have Jason Wright from T-Mobile, who is the Senior Manager of Data Quality and Governance Products in Information Technology with a stellar track record of product delivery for 32 years at Fortune 50 multinational companies. Next up, we have Heather Richardson, who is the Vice President of Data Management at Farm Credit Services of America. Farm Credit manages more than $30 billion in assets. Heather is responsible for data management maturity, data governance, and data literacy as a culture across her association. And finally, we have Miroslav Umlov, who in October of 2020 assumed the newly created role of Chief Data Officer. He was responsible for developing, communicating, and executing Avast data strategy and helping Avast to find balance between data innovation and regulation. I am so looking forward to this conversation, and Afshin, over to you to moderate.
Thank you very much, Amber, and I wanted to welcome our speakers. Thank you for being here with us today. As you heard earlier today from Michael, we recently surveyed more than 1,000 executives and line of business people from 11 countries around the globe about data readiness and in their organizations and the challenges that they face to become data-driven companies. And as we found some surprising, or maybe some not so surprising results, I wanted to kind of review some of these with you guys to kind of set the tone for today's panel discussion. We found that about 3/4 of them reported that still today poor data quality impacts their business, and about half of them said that they're actually afraid that privacy and other data regulations will actually limit their business ability to innovate. Another half of the respondents said that they're unable to work with the data without transforming it and without prepping it for it to be able to create some value to the business itself. And then obviously, as Amber mentioned earlier today, a vast majority of them have identified the current situation with COVID-19 as one of the catalysts to really expedite and push forward with the data transformation within their organizations as well. So with that in mind, and with what we've heard from our survey respondents, I really wanted to kind of highlight these facts, and also I wanted to take the opportunity to kind of discuss the vast majority of them mentioned that data management projects run into data quality issues, and that compromises the very important work that they're doing today. Companies are afraid to really expose data to everyone in their organizations because they can't afford to risk, the well-deserved and well-earned reputation or financial, or maybe the fear of financial consequences that they may get by violating data privacy regulations, which really results in people not having access to data and not being able to leverage what's already in-house. They need more sophisticated tools than what they have today. It was very shocking to see that still a vast majority of the respondents are using Excel and email as a way to share, access, and store data. So I'm very happy to be joined here today by 3 of our existing clients who can maybe share and offer a much brighter picture on what data management and governance can be, and in fact, they can share the opportunities that they've found in managing data properly. They are experts who have led their business through digital transformation initiatives and successfully driven their data management and governance practices. So today they're going to talk about what they see as the keys to their success and how they've been able to leverage data quality, master data management, and data governance in particular, and what they've been able to create within their organization and really make the most of what they have in-house. So they will share their use cases. They will touch on some interesting themes around how AI and self-driving capabilities support enterprise agility. They will discuss how data democratization and the challenges surrounding data privacy can actually be an opportunity and not just a challenge, and why data quality really needs to be at the heart of it all, along with many other topics there that I think will organically grow as part of the discussion here with our panelists. So once again, Heather, Jason, and Miroslav, it's wonderful to have you here, and thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Excellent. So I'd like to start things off maybe with an open question, and maybe Heather, this question is probably best if it's directed to you first. I know that AI has been a critical part of data management and different projects that you are leading now at Farm Credit. We would love to hear maybe a little bit more about some of your maybe tangible business initiatives, and maybe if you can expand on how you see AI and the self-driving capabilities and how those are really supporting your enterprise quest for agility and the ability to really pivot to new business initiatives faster.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think we can all relate to the fact that data management has always been the long pole in the tent. So no matter how brilliant the people may be that we have within our association and whatever analytics they have available to them, if it takes a ridiculous amount of time for them to get the data they need to drive these amazing new innovative ideas, business value, again, customer products and services, then they're not able to get them to the market and we lose competitive advantage. So from the beginning, we really kind of struggled with data management maturity as an association. So when I came in, I had the opportunity to start from scratch, which was great, good and bad. We didn't even have very basic capabilities. I'm talking data modeling, data quality at an enterprise level, a lot of things similar to that. So we took the opportunity, starting with privacy because of CCPA, getting that online, and then focusing on master data management, and that's where we're at right now. And there we're creating an event-driven hub for all of our master data or shared data across the association. So that way, again, we're hands off, and then the rest of the association can just consume that at any one time. Quality that really allow external data to come in, blend with that for a lot of innovation that we have with our products and services. So some of the tangible things, as an example, that we use or that we have at our company, we have an automated valuation model that we use. So imagine being a farmer trying to choose between two pieces of land, and all they have is the history of what that land's sold for in the past. But now imagine if you were a farmer and you also had soil information, you had the amount of actual usable land within that using GIS information, and being able to tell how much that the land could actually yield for crops. It makes that decision a whole lot easier for our customers. And that's some of the use cases that our analytics group really has and has implemented. So our job is really trying to get that data to them faster and ensuring that that data internally is like high pristine quality, because we don't have control of the quality of external data coming in. So the way we look at it is data management is extremely, honestly, the low value aspect of it. So how do we get that automated and offloaded so that we can spend more time on the analytics and new insights?
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Heather. Maybe I just wanted to also open it up to Jason and Miroslav to see if you guys have similar experiences in being able to make data available and be hands-off, similar to what Heather is doing at Farm Credit. Jason, what has your experience been in this type of space?
Well, we've really been trying to drive to a self-serve model with both our business and technical partners. So creating a data quality as a service product with our IT organization and business, where they can go in, manage their controls, because really when we're talking about data quality, we're talking about the controls that look at and evaluate the data and make sure that it checks out on the 8 dimensions of data quality: timeliness, completeness, accuracy. All of the dimensions are shown up in those controls so that we can get the confidence that what they're looking at is exactly what it needs to be, and then making that visible to the business through the different tools that we have in Ataccama with Gen 2 and Ataccama ONE, and being able to see, when I'm looking at that data, do I have a high degree of confidence, because those controls show that and can show us a composite score that we're going to have high quality there. Then by doing it in a self-service manner, in a large organization like T-Mobile, where we have thousands of business partners and thousands of people in our IT organization, they can look at that data, whether it comes through APIs, databases, or files, and make sure that it's to the level that it needs to be so that it can be consumed and people can rely on it. Making that visible is key.
Thank you, Jason. Maybe quickly from Miroslav, given what Jason and Heather just mentioned, are you kind of seeing similar situations at Avast, and how are you guys really leveraging AI from your side? Just a quick insight from your part.
Yeah, AI plays a critical role in Avast, also in our core business. That's the threat detection. But when I look only right now to data quality, what Jason just described, the ability to show what is the quality of the data, the quality of the data that is used for making decisions, for creating better customer experience. So visualizing the data quality, that's one of the critical elements which helped us to actually improve the data quality or to keep improving that. And AI automation in this area helps us a lot to spot the problems right time, because yes, we were always able to discover issues, but it was often late when it comes to data quality. So this is for us very important feature.
Wonderful, and then maybe to go a little deeper in the Avast use case, Miroslav, something that I love about your use case is that you and your organization really took GDPR as an opportunity, not just as a requirement to meet certain regulatory compliance needs or to reduce risks to yourself, but you took this as a chance to be even more reactive and be able to really service your millions of customers in a really transformative and improve the customer experience as well. Could you maybe, for the viewers, could you maybe comment on the importance of implementing a more granular access management in your organization and having policies around your data that are automatically enforced? I mean, we talked about AI, but obviously the automatic enforcement is also important. And what are the benefits that you've seen within Avast? And maybe if you can share some lesson learned to our listeners as well.
Thank you for the question or set of questions. Let's start with briefly how we got here. We have grown over several years, not just organically, but also through mergers and acquisitions. And yes, we are a technology company, so we have a lot of systems which are homegrown. And through the mergers and acquisitions, we acquired many other systems. So then our backend, our technology backend became complex and complicated. And then we also, a couple of years ago, in 2018, got listed on London Stock Exchange. It was more or less the same week as GDPR came into force. So it was quite funny year for me. Because I was exposed to both projects, the IPO and the GDPR. Well, with the number of systems we have acquired, we have the systems which help us to deliver the services to our customers. And we need data. We need data to build our product because what we do, we are online security company, and how we use data. We use data to detect threats. That's the first thing we do with the data. And then, of course, we do similar things as other companies do. So we want to improve our products through the data. We want to acquire and retain customers. And of course, we want to manage our business, our operations. And with this number of systems and with the expectations from the markets, from the regulators, because as I said, we became public, so the expectations changed when compared to being private, smaller company. We realized in that moment that automation of these tasks, like access management, is the only way forward. And it's not just the automation of access management, but it's the automation of being able to see what data we have in these hundreds of systems our company consists of. So this is something where Ataccama played critical role, and the first benefit was actually to be able to see. It provided us with the visibility, what we have and where we have it. And this is the first step, the prerequisite to automate and manage the access in a more granular way. And as we are learning over time, the granularity, not just on the data level, but also on the information level from the sensitivity perspective, this is something where, especially if we are already big enough, I would say we are more than 1,600 people, and people are coming and leaving. There are new data use cases, new data coming. It's just not manageable to do it manually. So we really need a strong platform in which we can capture our data policies, which are ambitious, which are not just trying to comply with the regulatory expectations. Being in the security business, we really need to have ambitious policies, not just the privacy policy, but the data use policy, and being able to enforce it, to assign it to the right people, right time. This is where the platform we have from Ataccama plays a really mission critical role.
Miroslav, so maybe my kind of follow-up question is maybe towards Jason. How is that? So you've heard how Miroslav and Avast are managing, access within the organization. How is it different from the type of access management you're currently undertaking at T-Mobile today? Have you seen similar use cases?
Yes, we sure have. So the level of understanding that a business user has of controls and looking at quality and the curation and management of those controls is much different than the IT organizations would be having, because IT is looking at things like performance and they're looking at things like bandwidth, whereas a business user may not be looking at that, and they may not understand sampling and other methods to try and get the performance of that data quality control within parameters so that it actually works and doesn't, you got to make sure you're not killing the goose that's laying the golden egg. I mean, in the end, it's the data that's the most important, and we need to keep that at its highest priority as we're managing the costs of the data quality that's being applied. So having guardrails in place and having an interface that is for business is making sure that that's in place and well managed is critical. And one of the things that we've done is try to separate those use cases so that we can make sure that we're not we don't have business users that are putting controls in place that could be out of line, and that on the technical side that the data and the monitoring necessary to make sure that what they've got in place makes sense and is appropriate for the quality that we want to get out of the data that we're looking at, whether it's supply chain marketing, finance, care, retail. All these different organizations have different levels of what they expect for their data quality, and we match those for what's applicable. And Ataccama allows that through its profiling.
Thank you, Jason. I couldn't agree more. And it's very important to acknowledge that different parts of the organization will have different needs on how data is managed and how data is accessed. Heather, how have you been able to manage from your perspective? How are you guys managing the different needs of the different type of users that you have within your organization in terms of data access?
Yeah, no, that's kind of been a beautiful thing. So one of our first use cases out of the gate was leads. We all have that goal of growing market share, right? So, looking at our best customers and looking at potential community banks or others that are closing and being able to get that information right away. We need to get that available to our product owners that are very comfortable with the customer side and what we need and expect from leads. So getting an algorithm out of gate very quickly, again, is very important for us to snag those leads before others do. So that was an initial use case. But then as we did that, we used the same kind of the profiling and the matching and merging. And we started moving towards the CCPA requirements from a privacy standpoint. And as we did that, the whole intent there was, again, right size access for the right size people. And Ataccama allows us to do that, which is awesome because we have a lot of diversity across our business. And from there, we were able to create a find your people service. So now every application can actually look up and kind of point back to our master data so that we have that same customer used across the entire association versus variations of the customer that we had in the past.
Wonderful. Thank you, Heather. So something that Jason said that I thought was very fitting, that you really focus on the importance of data to be able to do this properly. And so I kind of wanted to take a bit of a step back, and we talked about AI a lot today, and how AI is this critical part of the management of data. But I wanted to kind of take a step back and really talk about the importance of data quality, and maybe data quality with a capital D and a capital Q, right? As it is really at the core of everything that we do, and I know that it's at the core of everything that you guys are doing at T-Mobile as well. So the question is, we know that data quality is also an integral part at T-Mobile, but can you maybe tell us more about why data quality is really at the center of everything you guys do at T-Mobile?
Oh, you bet. So yeah, the costs in a large organization, when you're talking about enterprise databases of storing bad quality data, are astronomical. And propagating it from one place to another, garbage in, garbage out. On top of that, the decisions that are made upon that, like Heather was talking about, those algorithms need to be correct that are being used by the business in finance, especially. Otherwise, you're just making a bad problem worse as you're going through and doing order management or doing some other financial operations on the data that we've got. So you can't have that out there for users, and you just propagate it when you have more and more and more people using it, and then expand it forward to retail. And then instead of just little C customers in the company looking at it and making bad decisions, you're now pushing it out, and it's the customer face and our big C customers. At T-Mobile, we have over 160 million customers that are out there with their packages in their phones, and business users, small, medium, and large business and enterprise business users. Having the data propagated to that level where it actually affects the customers and it's seen in whether they're taking an order can create frustration that's just terrible. And having good data quality controls and a management process and practice in place that helps us through that is just absolutely critical, and Ataccama is doing that. Anomaly detection and what they're bringing with Gen 2 is something that we're definitely invested in and looking at because of the way that it can manage the consistency between our data when we're looking at ledgers and balance sheets on the financial side, and making sure everything there looks correctly as we're moving it through the order process. Doing millions of these a day is absolutely paramount to the business, and that's what we're striving to do at T-Mobile.
Thank you, Jason. So one thing I just heard you say towards the end is that you talked about AI-powered automated anomaly detection and running side by side with your current DQ controls. So how are you guys managing this kind of two approaches of your kind of prescribed data quality on top of the automated AI anomaly detection?
Yeah. So we've created, basically, I talk about it as right-sizing our data quality controls, and we've gone through an exercise to do that, creating kind of like you do service levels. You have absolutely critical stuff that's at service level 1, service level 2 is kind of a medium, and service level 3 is the bare minimum of what we need as data quality. That's kind of our standard set of data controls that we put out there within the Ataccama framework. And then for anomaly detection, what we're trying to do is, we know that data goes through processes, and as it's going through those processes and workflows, we know that there are certain fields that have to be filled out and certain fields that need to be within certain parameters that are reasonable. So looking at the dimension of data quality that's reasonable, and the data quality dimensions of consistency. Those two are, they really work well in an anomaly detection use case, because you can go out there and look for things to be out of line. When you've got bots that are going out there and going through the data, looking for those inconsistencies and looking for numbers that are just, or for values that are just unreasonable. And the new Gen 2 offerings that Ataccama has fit really well into that use case, and we'll be using that, and we've already got some POCs in place now to work through, especially our financial data, which is some of our most critical data.
Well, definitely as one of our beta users, we really appreciate your insight and your input in there. Maybe I wanted to get a quickly
Yep.
Heather's take on that as well. What's your take on automated anomaly detection or maybe any other AI-centered DQ enablers?
Yeah, I think this is, to me, that's when I think about AI, I think about augmented intelligence, right? And my goal is always to put the business at the front of this and ensure that we have the context that we need so that we're doing the right things with the data and not getting too heavy handed. Jason just mentioned right size quality, huge believer in that. And so with Ataccama, we're allowed to give a screen to our business users, have them put it in business language of here's what I want, and be able to translate that into something that's now repeatable and decoupled from all the applications we have so that every application can then consume that and automate that. So that's huge because before we used to have our quality hard coded with our applications and we'd ask, so what are the rules here? Well, I don't know. So-and-so did this 10 years ago. Not sure what that was, not sure who the business owner is. Now we have a full library of those rules and now we can reuse them across our application. So that decoupling and that automation really saves a ton of time and it provides the context ongoing for what we need. And that reuse is just wonderful.
Wonderful. So maybe I kind of wanted to shift topics a little bit. So earlier, in the previous session, we heard Sir Tim talk about data democratization. Miroslav, I know that Avast has always tried to make the most of, maybe for lack of a better word, of the tension between wanting to open data to everyone and then ensuring that you don't simply open data to everyone, right? So can you maybe tell us more about what concrete initiatives Avast has undertaken to really ethically expose data across the organization?
Yes, it's about the balancing between the offense and the defense. And as I already mentioned, we have grown through, let's say, much smaller companies, and the offensive activities were all driven by improving our competitive position. And then we had to learn how to be more defensive. How, for example, banks used to be much earlier than us defensive when it comes to data protection, when it comes to the capability to prevent people from misusing the data. And so, yes, we had to learn how to do the more defensive strategies, how to apply control in data, how to create data controlled environment. But then we also realized, okay, but we still want to be innovative. We want to use the data. We want to have the smart people and smart algorithms have the access to data and come up with insights or new features for the products without being worried that they could, for example, breach something. And it's we tried a different path. We started, of course, a couple of years ago with traditional technological approach like row level security, column level security. Then, after the GDPR, we definitely wanted to minimize the risk, and we used pseudonymization as one of the safeguards. So we implemented or re-implemented the analytical platform in a way that it's personal data free. But then we, of course, wanted to move even further because pseudonymization, as you know, is just a risk mitigation safeguard. It doesn't make the data totally impersonal, so all the privacy regulations apply here. So if you want to keep the data open for multiple use cases, you really need something like anonymous data set. And some companies call it synthetic data sets. This is the concept where if you have a synthetic data set, it means that it doesn't have to be considered under the data set which is regulated. So we wanted to explore the opportunities which are there. We came across the differential privacy implementations. One of them is called smart noise. So this is definitely one of the areas which we are exploring. But the goal is to have differentially private or fully anonymous data sets. And I'm not talking about small data set. I'm really talking on the level of the data warehouse where we could allow researchers to do a eyes of processing of the data, so they could train their algorithms on these data sets, and then if they figure out something interesting, we could run it on the raw data set, for example, after assessment of those who understand the regulations, for example. Or the use case is really to have a totally synthetic data set, which will allow us to address the data retention problem, because as you know, you can't keep all the data forever. And sometimes even 10 years is already too long from the regulatory perspective. But you as a business, all your stakeholders and shareholders, they want to understand the trends the company has come through. And this is what we see as one of the opportunities to have not just aggregated data in reports and spreadsheets with very limited flexibility to do the historical analysis. We believe that using this approach through differential privacy and synthetic data sets, that the companies can have the ability to retain data longer, to open it for research internally, or even if it is truly anonymous, and this is the challenge for everyone who understands all the algorithms which claim to provide anonymity. If it is truly anonymous, then you could share the data even externally for the public good, for example. So preserving privacy, but using the data also for in other use cases by other people.
Thank you. Thank you. And Heather, I know that Miroslav has been quite thorough on the topic, but is there anything maybe you want to add from how Farm Credit is really approaching the idea of allowing access to data across the organization, but also making sure that you only provide what's really needed?
Yeah, no, I could relate a lot to that. So as I think about the synthetic data, I know that's been around a lot from a quality testing standpoint. But as you start getting into algorithms, you also risk the thing of overfitting your models, right? Because you have this not as real as the data and the anomalies we would see in our production data. So that's one challenge that we face with that. So I love his approach in regards to use this first and then test it on the real data to save some time there. Something else we've done is from a security standpoint, he's absolutely right. We can anonymize and we can think we're doing a great job about it. But we actually are having, just like security kind of comes in, we have a specific organization that comes in and tries to break things. And again, we don't know they're coming. They try to break into our systems. They try to break into everything. Well, we've kind of added the idea of how about we have them come in and see if they can reconnect a customer. So we can have hackers come in and say, can you reconnect this? So that's a way for us that, and that external kind of look at, are we as anonymized as we think we are? But I agree, having it open for us, again, there's 68 other farm credits, and we're definitely the most advanced from a technology standpoint. So anonymization of our data as a service to other farm credits would be of great value, because all of us care about the brand in the outside world and that reputation. So no, I really enjoyed that conversation from Avast. So thanks for that.
Well, thank you to Miroslav and Heather, and for really sharing what you guys are doing in these synthetic data assets. I know it's really forward-looking approach to a problem, but I can imagine that many companies across all sort of industry have similar problems. But this panel is about next generation data management and governance. So I feel that we can't really close any discussion without really addressing some of the new challenges that we're facing as we approach things such as data governance in the cloud. So maybe I'll go ahead and open the floor now to see if any of the panelists want to provide some insights on how they're really preparing themselves for this kind of cloud-first future and cloud-first approach. Maybe Jason, anything from your side that you want to share on this?
Well, so we've got a lot of sources that come in, especially with marketing through the cloud, and making sure that that data for campaigns and for other targeted use in marketing is correct is very important. Fortunately, we installed our Ataccama instance already in the cloud, and we're kind of in a hybrid model as we're moving more and more of our Ataccama engine up into the cloud, and where we'll be completely a data quality as a service and using it as an AAS. That's prepared us with some of the issues around Azure and AWS that we need to be aware of while we're going across, those parts of both the private and the public cloud. Building that and those controls in to our framework and having those in a reusable manner, and then also building upon what Ataccama has already done has helped us a lot to kind of learn that. It is challenging at times, especially looking at some of the sources that we bring in from outside vendors that are in the cloud and making sure that that data is in a pristine and fit for use state has been kind of one of our challenges, and building it so that we've got those reusable controls ready to go. And that's what we'll continue to be doing over the next year as we mature that.
Very good. And Heather, maybe to follow up on what Jason mentioned, maybe if you can share any insight or anything you want our listeners to know about what to really focus on when trying to enable data governance in this new kind of hybrid or cloud-first type of environment, right?
I think at the end of the day, we want to protect and have the best quality data no matter where it's at. So one of the reasons we were drawn to Ataccama is the ability to then decouple, right? How do we offer quality as a service? How do we offer quality as events? So that way, no matter where the data resides, we're able to apply those same treatments to it. So we can take care of it and exercise it the way it needs to be exercised, again, here or in the cloud. So it's really great that it's really deployable and reusable, again, not caring where it's at. So yeah, I agree with Jason, and yeah, I'm excited about what's potential there. So
thank you. And Miroslav, I know you guys have been at the forefront of this for quite a while now. Maybe if you can share with us, what do you think are some of the things that are kind of critical when trying to ensure that we have the right approach to data governance on the cloud?
Well, as Heather already mentioned it, in our view, it doesn't matter whether it is cloud A or our own data center B, data center C. We really need to be able to work with the systems no matter where they run, whether it is cloud native app or whether it is just running in one of the clouds. We know there will be more than the three cloud providers we see today. There are actually more, but there are the three most prominent, and this is what we enjoy with Ataccama, that it's, I would say, cloud agnostic, that it really doesn't matter to the platform where the data or the system is. We are, as a company, already in the, I would call it, cloudification process. It doesn't mean we don't have any cloud provider. Actually, as I said, we acquired a couple of companies which were already only cloud-based, but we are doing the assessment of what more could be in the cloud. And during this assessment, we already learned that the capabilities which Ataccama has can be more used, more valuable, especially if we are running something in cloud when compared to some legacy solutions which we have on premise. So for us, the move to cloud is also a move to something what I call more mature organization from the data governance perspective.
Very good. Actually, that kind of ties in really well with my next question. I know that all of you quickly now mentioned some of your motivations and behind moving towards data management, data governance to the cloud. But we hear a lot from our customers. I know I've heard from you in the past as well that speed and agility is quite one of the critical reasons why this new approach about to move towards cloud first. And earlier today in David's demo, we saw really increased focus on speed and agility. So with that in mind, I would like to hear our panelists' take on how this will really impact the way that they will manage it in the future, and what does it mean to have speed and agility, and why is that important? Jason, how are you guys approaching this at T-Mobile today?
Yeah, so any of the processes that we have to connect to things, what we've done is kind of broken down the control lifecycle to be 8 simple steps. And we focused on making sure each of those steps are as automated as we can possibly do within the organization. So whether it's connecting to a new source or a new target, whether it's creating the control or presenting the triage or the issue tracking of what's going on to remediate an issue when a control finds something, or to show the telemetry when something goes on. Trying to automate each of those 8 steps on the life cycle of a control and the life cycle of data quality has been what we've really focused on in the organization. And the Ataccama, we've talked about, Heather said it, and we've also heard Miroslav say it, the reuse of things, trying to get things so that they happen very quickly and we can repeat them over and over again, whether we're looking at a Teradata, an Oracle, an Azure SQL, or whatever the source or target is, and that we can reuse that code no matter where it might be for any of those different places where data is stored or where data moves from and to.
Wonderful. Miroslav, I know Jason right now mentioned the ability to reuse data, right? So the ability to not having to rebuild everything from scratch, depending on what your data source is or your data store is quite critical and really provides that speed and agility. What does it mean to have speed and agility in your organization?
Well, it's I think when I'm coming from telco, many years ago, I worked in a telecommunication operator, Telefonica, and I joined software company because I wanted to enjoy speed. And then I was really surprised already 10 years ago how fast it was when compared to telco that time. And right now I see, or we face, that the speed is even more increasing. It's not only about the systems we are surrounded with, it's about not the data analytics literacy, but the overall literacy or awareness of people, how they think about the data, about the developers, how they think about the data, the engineers, and about the data lifecycle. And this is how people typically don't think that the data has some life cycle, or they apply algorithms, they change systems, and it has some impact on data. And then sometimes, maybe often too late, they are figuring out, okay, it's generating some data, it's feeding somewhere, so let's map it out, or let's do something with about it. And in my view, it's very important to teach everyone, to show everyone that they should think first about the data lifecycle, no matter how fast we go, but always every change will generate some data, change in the system, I mean. Every new feature will collect some data, so we should know before we launch a new feature, already during the testing phase, where the data will flow, how it will be tagged, and so on. So the data lifecycle, this is for us the very important topic right now, to show to those who do changes in the systems, in the products, to engineering, to stick to our common data lifecycle, which has several steps. And one of them is definitely in the beginning, the architecture of how the data will flow, where it will land, how it will be used. And this is again coming back to Ataccama, that it plays a critical role there. Yeah, this is our approach to the speed.
Thank you, Miroslav. Very insightful. Heather, do you also, so I know we just heard Miroslav talk about speed and agility is important, but you also need to make sure that you obviously take care of everything else around it. Any tips from your side, or any lesson learned on this type of approach?
Yeah, I think for a long time in data, we have a tendency to push, right? This is why we need to do it. Data is important. We need to do this. versus starting at the customer and realizing our customers are getting a new experience from hundreds of different applications every single day that they then expect our application or our experience to be able to do. So our customers are changing just regularly, right? And then we want that personalization aspect. So how do we adapt? And to me, this is all about adapting as quick as possible. So for us, to me, it's more about almost like a manufacturing process where we have a value stream. We all have very critical processes that we're doing to that data that's adding value along the way. And then we're able to actually measure how long is each one of those portions actually taking. And then how do we focus then OpEx pieces on that to get that more streamlined? So then we're working together across teams and able to get that refined data back out as quickly as possible. Right size, because every data has a different, I kind of think of, you have fine dining and then you have fast food. There's different users at the end, so the amount of requirements that it needs, but it still has to go through that process. So I think working together and treating it like an asset, like in manufacturing, is a really good way to do it.
Definitely love the analogy and really kind of brings it down. Wonderful. Thank you, Heather. So maybe I'd like to kind of close out with one last and maybe round robin question. I'll ask our panelists to kind of be a little interactive on this one. We talked about earlier today about the rise of the data fabric, actually more specific to us, the rise of the enterprise data quality fabric. And kind of like to get your input and your thoughts about what you really think about these truly unified fabric where we have your data quality, we have master data management, we have data governance, all seamlessly stitched together. And all of this really brought in thanks to this unified metadata across the whole data management platform. And I think something that Miroslav, that I really thought was quite interesting is, yes, we want to move with speed and agility, but it's also important to make sure that we focus on all the required pieces of the life cycle. So from the initial data acquisition, data classification, all the way to data cleansing, and then being able to expose that data sometimes through master data management. So with that in mind, what is your take on this notion of the unified data quality fabric, and how do you see that being applied to your organizations? Maybe I'll kind of start from the top of my screen. I see Heather. Maybe Heather, if you want to kick it off from your side.
Yeah, I think, if you focus on the end, right, in regards to the algorithms consuming this, something I always like to talk about is, hey, everyone knows the Zestimate, right? So great, we know what the Zestimate is on Zillow, which is predicting the cost of that house. Does anyone have any idea how many data models feed that Zestimate? And you'll get 100, 200. And when they find out it's 30,000, they really kind of like, holy cow, I had no idea. So this concept of a data pipeline to be able to light up that light bulb at the end, that Zestimate that everybody sees, I think it's showing that, right? Showing that this is really about the same way we have an electrical grid, same way we have water pipelines. It really is us. So we really kind of have to get those very clean and very streamlined and preferably automated to reduce any errors in it.
Yeah. Jason, what's your take on that?
Well, having the data governance processes automated and integrated is really key. So having the stewards that are responsible for making sure that the data looks right, whether they're on the business side or the technical side, having that visibility in one place of that end-to-end view as you're looking at the different topics of governance, whether they're quality or privacy or security or retention, all of those different pieces of that have to be shown in such a way that people know and can quickly see where it is so they can reuse it, so they're not recreating something that another team has done. And especially in a large corporation where sometimes the left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing, you have to have that visible in an integrated display that you could see for governance, catalogs that are linked to data quality metrics, that are linked to privacy rules, so that you can see all that in one place, because the conversation sometimes is multi-layered, and with multiple people, it's not going to be people at a silo. I think that's the big takeaway, is that corporations need to have that so that we break down those silos.
Thank you, Jason. And I'd love to talk a little more, but I just got a cue that we're running a little bit of time. I wanted to maybe use the last couple minutes to address some of the questions that we're getting from the audience, which is quite a few of them. So we kind of picked a couple that I thought were very interesting. The first one is kind of addressed to Jason, and I know that we've been talking about data quality, the MDM, and data governance. But the question says, what else really impacts your ability to go to improve your time to market for new products and services at T-Mobile?
So, so we're the young carrier. So they're always coming up with innovative ways that we can service our customers and give new offers and new programs to customers. There's a new big announcement today about 5G for everyone. And as we're implementing those kind of complex ways to help our customers to be faster with their telecommunications products and to have the best service that they can have, we're going to have supporting that these tools that we're talking about that are integrated in data governance. Otherwise, we're not going to be able to quickly reuse what we already have and build upon that with these new moves that think outside the box. It's just going to be impossible to connect all that together in the speed that we need to do it in. And Ataccama is one of those products that helps us to do that and integrate.
Wonderful. Thank you, Jason. I guess the next question is for Heather. One of our listeners asking, do you have any advice on how to encourage some of the business users to be more engaged and more involved in the data management process? We talked about the importance of providing data to a user, but how do we make sure that they actually want to be part of the process?
Yeah, and again, I think that goes to that push-pull again, right? So have you spent time with your business partners really understanding the use cases or the problems they're trying to solve? And are you able to connect those to data? For us, we actually created an avatar that we named Walt, and we gave him a backstory about, growing up on a farm with his dad. He came back, went to college, came back because the farming was going more technology-based. And then we really used Walt as an avatar to help explain what data was. So we almost kind of compared it to agriculture, right? That raw seed. And if you keep kind of taking the crop after crop after crop and not tending to that soil, your crops are going to not produce anymore. So I think it's really about getting to metaphors and to the value of what they care about. So getting it to that pole, because if they care about the analytics and the value that they're getting from that, then they'll start saying, oh, these are the raw ingredients going into that. Now I get it. Okay, so that's why we're doing these things. So I think just start with where they're at versus where you're at. I think that's really helps a lot.
That's great insight. So I guess it's education, and maybe sometimes when you don't have the right sponsor, maybe you can create one like Walt. So that's great. So maybe the last question before we kind of wrap it up. This is for Miroslav. Do you have any tips or any insight you can provide on how to make sure that you have a continuous funding for data governance and data management initiatives? I'm not sure if this is something that you've had to face at Avast or not, but any insight would be appreciated.
Well, I think in every responsibly managed company, you need to defend or sell your project and the investments needed for this. So, of course, it took me some time to get the buy-in from the CFO, from the board. And now I would say I'm very lucky that we have really the attention of the board, of the CFO, but it doesn't mean that if you have it 1 year that it will not evaporate the other year. So it's largely about the communication also towards this audience and showing them the benefits which you have already delivered. Also showing them or articulating the issue if we don't continue with, for example, the implementation of the data quality, because the data quality, it is not implemented like in 3 months or in 1 year. I would say it's like with business intelligence, it's never ending. So you have to keep doing that. You keep learning about new problems. So creating something like it could be a dashboard where you show the value you protected, for example, where you show the risk, where which we are facing. Let it be the regulations, let it be the new acquisition, for example, and selling how you will solve it through data governance, and what do you need for it? What do you need for it from the people in the company also, not just from the technology itself. So creating this narrative and having a regular check-in with the top management, and this is what I really fought for. So on a bi-weekly basis, I have access to all the top management with the data-only topics, and this is great. This is what made the difference when I compare it with a couple of years ago, where this was important topic, but not as important as to pay attention to it every month. So right now I have bi-weekly attention, and it's really helping to have the funding, have the support in removing the roadblocks, and this is, in my view, the two elements which you really need for successful data governance.
Thank you, Miroslav. And I guess the overarching theme between your answer and Heather's answer is really continuous education and continuous communication and open communication with everybody in the organization at different levels. So it's very nice how those really kind of tied in together. We have several questions, but in the interest of time, unfortunately, we won't be able to answer them all. But I think that really shows how relevant the topic today was to the people that are listening in. But I wanted to thank all our panelists and thank you all for taking the time to join us today. And obviously, thank you to the panelists for joining this session from what I'm assuming is the intimacy of their own homes, and I appreciate the candid responses from everyone. Thank you, guys.
I so enjoyed that conversation. I actually wrote a few things down, key points that I thought were pretty interesting. I loved Heather's comments on the future of agriculture and the importance of data when she talked about being able to figure out how much land could yield for crops and the role of automation. I also loved Jason's comment where he said that it's the data that is the most important, and I think he had a good comparison. He said, don't kill the goose laying the golden eggs.
That's right.
That's a good comment. And Miroslav, the emphasis on the quality of data and being able to visualize that data and how critical that is. And he also said something that has really been a theme all day throughout our conversations, that automation of tasks is truly the only step forward. So a really great conversation.
Absolutely. No, I really enjoyed it, and always enjoy having the opportunity to talk to some of our customers to get some firsthand, tangible feedback on what they're doing.